All right, everybody, welcome back to another dev stream. My name's Kevin. We do these twice a week for Patreon members. It's meant to be an open conversation. Basically, we're working our way through making an indie game. Our goal is a year. If you're new to the channel, that's what we're doing. If you've been around for a while, that's old news. Today, we are going to be working on we're going to be taking a look at a couple things. I'm going to show you all a bunch of stuff that I've been doing with hits and damage and combat. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the troubleshooting. I was up till like 5 o'clock in the morning working my way through some of this stuff. So let's not belabor this. Let's just get right in and kind of take a look at where we're at. If you hear people talking, that's because this is an open conversation. Patreon members come in. We kick around ideas, etc. If there's a drop in the stream, don't worry. As soon as I restart my computer because of the crash, I will be right back. So we've been doing a bunch of stuff with damage. So if you listen, we have our swipes, which are cool. And the swipes are current here. Let me make this a little bigger. The swipes are currently set up so that if you hit the swipe window properly, you can see that it's changing colors right now. It's getting darker and darker. My idea for that is if you hit the combo, you're going to get more power. And right now I'm just representing that with a change in color of the swipe so you can see it. And eventually all the swipes will be different. But you can see in the top left, it's also printing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's in a row. That's how many I got in a row before I lost it. The little flash that you're seeing pop up, that currently is supposed to represent the visual component of when to attack again. Now, we also need to add an audio bit as well. Maybe we can do that today as well. We'll see. Let me make sure. Yeah, okay, that's cool. Okay, so that's one piece of what we've been working on. The second piece is you'll see we've got all of our enemy health bars back, which is great. And we can now do damage, which is cool. We used to be able to do this, but we lost it as part of our cleanup and trying to make it so that our package size was smaller. We were cleaning up all the stuff that we thought we weren't using. Turns out we cleaned up some stuff we were using, so we lost all of our health bars as well. Now, the other thing that you can't see but is true is if I'm running and I attack, my character stops. So I added in the idea of an attack pause. I think this feels better, but I'm still holding the arrow key. So I'm advancing as I'm doing this. I think there'll be we're gonna have to play with this because this is the piece of combat. This is what we need to make combat feel good. When you're just running and gunning, like, it doesn't make sense. Now, the other thing that I noticed was if we activate it, you'll notice that if we do it in midair, character does not stop. That is because if we do it here, let me see if I can disconnect this real quick. GA ability. This is in our gameplay abilities for the melee attack. Let's compile and save that just so we have whatever it is we changed here. And then setting our movement mode. This is if we're not falling. Okay, let's try this again to see if I can show you all the problem. Okay, so the problem is, if you'll notice, I can permanently hang out in midair, which is kind of cool, but kind of not the desired goal here. So the problem with this is, it would be cool to do an air attack, and when you get up here, you get coyote time. However, because of the way this is set up, you could technically just sit up here and wait for your enemies and then just drop down on them, for example. Now, there are lots of ways that we could potentially deal with this. We could do max coyote time stacks, right? Which might be kind of cool. So you could do like jump, maybe 3, jump 2, 3, jump 2, 3, and then and maybe that's an ability we can upgrade. That might be kind of fun. That doesn't feel too bad, because then you're not like just. But if I keep it like this, we're just hanging out up here. I can let anything happen. So that might be a cool thing to try today as well. So let's see here. False comes up here. Now, how might we do that? We have a crit count. You know what? Let's try that for fun real quick. That might be a fun thing to be able to do. So let's add a new variable. We're going to call this is going to be air attack count. Air attack count. Okay. And then we need to start it. We're going to set it here. Set the air attack count. Is that what really we want? Is pending damage. Here's what we're going to do. Over here, if we're false, let's clean this up a little bit. So first off, why are we crisscrossing these lines? And what we're going to do is we're going to move this up here. Maybe we can move this down here. Let's just clean this up a little bit. False. Okay. So if we are not... Oh, let's make this a little bigger for you all. Okay, cool. So if we're not falling, that means that we're on the ground and we're going to do our stop. I also want to set our air attack count to 0. Okay. And then if we are falling and we do this, I'm going to take our air attack count and I'm going to get it. And then we're going to increment it. We'll increment it. So what this is going to do is this is going to create an air attack count for us. And then what we do is we can say, we're going to do the same thing. So if that's true, let's see here. If this value is less than or equal to, let's try 2. Not a 2, we can't put 2 in there. Well, let's say 2. If that's true, then we can do coyote time. By the way, if you don't know what coyote time is a reference to an old cartoon, Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, when the animated characters would jump off, like run off a cliff, and they'd sit there and hang in free fall. They'd sit there before they realized they were supposed to be falling. They'd look back at the cliff, Roadrunner would look back at Coyote, and then Coyote would fall. So anyways, that's kind of what this reference is. So if that's true, then we're going to do that. And then otherwise, if it's false, we're going to do this. There is one little problem here. I think this is going to work, but this is going to be a problem. I'll show you in a second. Okay. So if we jump, cool, it works twice. That's perfect. Ooh. Okay, so jump, 2 attacks. Jump. Okay, so now you can see the problem. So if I jump and I do 2 attacks, now look what happens. If that's 2 attacks, that's great. So I get 2 air attacks basically. However, if I jump now, the problem is, let's see here. Let me try to articulate this. When we jump up, we get 2, see how I didn't get any air attacks that time? Okay, so when I'm on the ground and I press it, it resets my air attack counter. Okay, so now I jump in the air, I get 2 attacks. I keep clicking this, let me make this smaller. And then let me move this over here. Okay, so once again, jump in the air, 2 attacks. Now I'm on the ground. If I jump again, I don't get any air attacks. That's because the air attack counter doesn't get reset unless I attack on the ground. I kind of also need it. I need a way for it to reset when I hit the ground as well, even if I don't attack. So right now, what's happening is, we can even get, let's keep that for right now. So here we are, this comes through, etc. But now we're on the ground, we haven't attacked. When we come in, we need to reset this. So what we could do is we could, yeah, even that's not going to work. Like, for example, we could test to see if we are walking at the beginning of the, we could test to see if we are walking at the beginning of the gameplay ability. However, if we do that, that's still not going to work, because if we jump, we do our 2 air attacks, we hit the ground. Then we jump again, we're in the air when the ability gets activated. So that doesn't work. So what we need is we need a way for when our character hits the ground for that to get reset. Probably a better place to do this is on the pawn. Because we're getting the movement mode from the pawn. We don't want to do this on tick. Hold on, let me think, y'all. Well, let's compile and save this for right now, because this is closer. Then let's open up our pawn, which is here. And in our pawn, we have a lot of stuff for movement in this pawn. Event graph. Posting high scores. Possessions. Beginning plays. Beginning overlaps. Taking a look at our Anim Manager. The reason is because in here we definitely, whenever we come to run, idle, or crouch, these would be good times to set whether or not that air attack is valuable or valid. So what we could do is we could add the idea of the air attack count on the pawn. And then we could reset it when we hit these runs. Do we do anything like that in here already? Reset looping, play from start. We do reset our stat counts. Oh, we could do that. We could, what we could do is we could set it up as a tag actually instead. Where, since we already have that, I think I like that better. Rather than adding the variables. I like that better. Let's do that. Okay, so to do that, let's go ahead and, do we think that's an anim state? What do we have available in our tags? Charging, crouch, electrocuted, jump down. Or is this an ability? Ability, slam down, sword combo. It's not a weapon. It's definitely not weapon. It's not behavior. I'm wondering if we want, here's the thing, melee, air attack count could be one example, or we could just use the anim state And the potential reason for using the anim state might be if we wanted to have different animations so that we could like randomly choose what animation plays when you do an air attack, for example. So we're going to rethink these tags, but for right now, let's add one. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to duplicate this, add this in here, and we're going to, whoops, run. We'll connect this in, and then we're going to add anim state, add a subtag, air attack, air attack. Oh wait, it didn't take it, air attack. There we go. So this resets it. This is what we want to do. So that resets it in run, and then in idle, we're going to need to do the same thing. Basically, any time that we hit the ground, we want to reset our air attack. Okay, and then do we need to do it in crouch? I don't think we need to do it in crouch. Let's just do it in those two for now. Okay, let's compile and save that. And then what we're going to do is, rather than incrementing back in our gameplay ability, I gotta remember where we want to do this. Jump. Okay, so inside, I think probably the easiest one, if we look at the example of the one we already did, if we look at GA jump release, I believe it is, jump on release, we are going to add a stat tag. So we get the Lyra character output, add a stat tag. That's it. Okay, cool. So if we go back to our melee attack base, over here, where we are doing this incrementing, we're going to change this. So let's give ourselves a little bit more room here. Okay. Okay, so we need the Lyra character info, player state, add stat tag. Does all this work here? And then we're going to take out this plus plus. I'm going to feed this in to here. We don't need this. We don't need this. This is eventually going to go away because this is just debug printing. Is this going to compile? Holy smokes, that compiled. Okay, now we want to get that value. And to get that value, we just do the same thing. Except we're going to get Lyra character, get Lyra state, get stat tag. Okay, but the stat tag, we got to make sure the stat tag we get is, oh, interesting. There is a ability type. Yeah, but that's the actual ability being executed. This isn't really a ability. We're actually tracking the thing. So we'll keep this for right now. Anims, air attack. Let's go air attack. Air attack. Cool. So we got the air attack. We got that. And then we're going to come in here. We're going to connect that up. And then we're going to see if that value is greater than or equal to 2. Compile and save. That's going to run up there. And then we're going to go. Okay, so first things first. Okay, that worked. That's cool. So, and then the test is jump. Okay, now if I jump and attack before, oh dude, that worked. That's cool. We now have an upgradable air attack option, which is kind of cool. I think I like this solution better because it gives us options for things that we can do in combat. I like that. That also gives me the ability to do crit strikes. That could be cool. So for example, One of the things that, like, if I show you all some artwork real quick, which will be fun if I can find it. Let's take a look at, oh, I gotta log in, hold on. Let's take a look at one of our creatures. Whoops. I'm not trying to sign it. There we go. Okay, so for example, let's take a look at one of our creatures. Let's use these. These are, I can't remember if these are bosses or what, but this is an example of a couple of creatures that we're working towards for the rent. And imagine that you're not as tall as this character. Imagine that you're maybe as tall as his paw or whatever. That would give us the ability to do things like jump and hit him in the head, or jump and hit him in vulnerable spots for all of these things, which might be kind of cool. Or we could even have them, you know, you jumping off platforms and trying to hit them in the head, etc. So we're still playing with the platforming aspect of this and the creature sizes and everything. So, but anyways, that's a cool option to have, which is great. Now, another thing that I noticed when we were in here, if you'll notice, the effect for the crit strike doesn't travel with the character. So it's basically falling behind. And it's tough to see now because we've added in this hit pause or this movement mode pause. If we do this, I can probably, let's save all just in case we get a crash. Check. I don't want to save that. Okay. Now we should be able to run a gun. Yeah. So you can see it's getting left behind, right? Whereas the slashes are following with us. So I think we need to change what that system is parented to real quick. So let's go ahead and do that and reconnect this guy. Like so. That was a control left click drag, by the way, so I didn't have to undo and redo everything. And then what we want to do is we want to take a look at which V effect is being applied. So we are applying, let's see, this is our crit window. So when the attack happens, we do a crit window setup. The crit window setup has it applies an additional effect called gameplay effect strike window. And the gameplay effect strike window will go ahead and check something on our audio levels. Okay, this one actually applies this gameplay cue for crit strike. This is the wrong verbiage for this. This is not a crit strike, but that's okay. We understand that. We're fixing it. So here we go. Let's see here. Crit strike. This has a game cue notify. The game cue notify spawns a crit flare. The crit flare is here. If we look at this, the system, somewhere in here, we can set the parent. Probably the easiest way to find it is in our melee attack. When we play the VFX, we're spawning a system attached. That's none in the root component. Are we doing the same thing for our crit strike? We are spawning a system attached and we are using the root component. That is the same. So then what is different would be parenting within. So if we look at each of these emitters, this is checked for local space, etc. If we look at our crit flares, that is not checked for local space, not checked for local space, and not checked for local space. Okay, so simply by doing that, we should be able to now have check out the selected game queue notify. Yep, this is a formatting thing. Save, sure, and then what were we doing? Melee / gameplay ability, melee attack. Over here, if we skip this, we should be able to run and gun, and that stuff should stay in place. Yeah, see how it's always in front of the character? Now, here's the problem. We do have some clarity issues here. So this thing looks an awful lot like a hit. And I know it's just stand-in, but it looks a lot like a hit. So when I'm standing here and I'm doing this, the difference between that and what a hit impact might look like, it's too much. Also, the location is... I'm not sure how I feel about the location, because if we're swiping in front of us, this location is potentially always going to feel like a hit during melee attacks. So let's move it. Let's move it to be over the character's head. So in here in our crit strike, the location, where rather than getting the forward vector, let's get the up vector. Okay, and then let's take that and let's add to that, and let's see if that moves that, where that moves that to. Yeah, right above his head. Okay, now the thing that we want to do is let's make this the crit flare. Let's get rid of the sparks. Yeah, let's go with that. See if that feels like less like a hit when we do that. Yeah, I think so. We could probably even get rid of the ring. If we come back in here, crit flare, and we get rid of the ring. Save that. And we go with a play on that. Okay, I think getting rid of the ring works. However, I think that ultimately... No, I think we should bring the ring back. Let's bring the ring back. Let's bring the ring back. And let's see if we can make the ring more like a ring. So down here in our material parameters, if we interesting. What if we go with 0 here? There, that's just a solid ring. I like that. Now let's change the color. User color. So rather than red on this, let's use something like a bright blue. Reason being, I don't want it to be misconceived as damage. So we'll go file, save that. That should make us happy. We can go F11. Yeah. keep missing it though. You can tell I miss it because the swoosh is supposed to go both ways. There we go. Found it. Missed it. There we go. Found the rhythm. Now we may want to make that a little more forgiving, but overall, cool. Oh, we should bring back our pause though. Let's not forget that. We can keep this here, save this. One thing that is worth noting is we're gonna have to change how high that is based on the character. So that's something to keep in mind, because in addition to playing with the sizes of our enemies and platform, we're also playing with the sizes of our characters. However, that causes so many problems with level design. But we're gonna at least try. We're gonna try. We'll see. Okay, so now we should be. Okay, I think that's pretty cool. I think that's working. Okay, so we're gonna have to do some work so that the characters, we have to do some work with our damage calculations, basically. I'm not gonna do that in this stream because it has to do with coding and going into damage executions and figuring out how to get the gameplay effects levels to be paid attention to. But I do want to show you briefly why, if I can remember, what was going on that I was up till 5 o'clock this morning trying to get this to work. Okay, super easy. So originally, after we apply our crit and everything like that, our crit windows, we come down, and if we get through the delay, if there's we set pending damage, we set up our crit window setup, then we do our testing, and then we go to apply our damage. However, nothing I was doing was getting damage to pass through to our game queue notify. And there were a couple problems in there. One of them was our game queue notify was not properly sending the hit results through, so we had to update that in code. But the other one that was happening is, let me show you. Yeah, okay. So originally, the way this was set up was I was getting the ability system and making an effect context. And then I was taking that effect context, I was adding a hit result for it, and then I was applying that gameplay effect to itself. So I was struggling with this. Now, just because you saw what the answer is, it probably seems pretty obvious. But I spent a ton of time trying to figure this out, and I even asked AI. And so I want to make a comment about AI right now, okay? So I showed AI my blueprints. I said, I cannot for the life of me figure out why I am not getting the damage location in my game queue notify. Showed it this blueprint, my damage blueprint, the code, everything. My hope would be, in a idealistic world, is the AI would be able to look at this and holistically say, oh, I see what your problem is. It's this. However, it sent me on it keeps trying to tell me something else that I should do instead, or some other workaround, or any number of other things. Not helpful all the time, very helpful lots of the time, but in this particular case, not helpful all the time. So I ended up tracing this all the way down, literally to the memory pointer address level. What happened was, when I got down there in the code, deep in the code, you can look at the actual address in memory. And what I found was that the damage effect context address here was different than it was here, was different than it was here. And then I realized, classic blueprint mistake. This pen, and I there's something about gameplay effect context and all these kinds of things where sometimes it works differently, but it doesn't this pen gets evaluated every single time it gets called. So it gets evaluated here, it gets evaluated here, and it gets evaluated here. So what's actually happening here is it's creating 3 different effect contexts. So I was storing one in the variable, I was adding one to the, actually this variable didn't even exist. I was putting one in the hit result and sending a completely different one that had nothing in it to the gameplay effect itself. So as you can see, I realized the mistake I made because when I looked at the pointers, they were different. The only way they could be different, didn't make sense, was they were actually different effect contexts. Then I went back to this and I realized, oh, dude, I need to make a variable for this. So I created a variable for this, create a variable for that, and now the effect context that I create is getting the hit result, is the one that's being sent to the gameplay effect. Okay, so I've mentioned this issue before. I've mentioned this in our fundamental classes. I've mentioned this in just previous blueprint work. It's super easy to forget that when these pens get evaluated, you're getting a different thing. Usually, we're talking about random numbers, right? If I do a random float in range, if I were to go like this, multiply, etc. Every single one, this would be a different random float. Like let's say this generated a random float from 0 to 10. Okay, and the first float it generates is 5. So it's going to do 5 times 1. Okay, and then you're going to go plus. And you're thinking, oh, you know, plus 5 times 2, for example, right? But that's not what happens. This is not 5. If this generates 5, it's not 5 times plus 10, 15. It's 5 times 1 plus a different random float times 2 added. So usually this is the context I talk about this in, but in this case, turns out it applies to the effect contexts as well. So let's compile and save all that. We'll make sure we are still working and 100%. I think we need to move our combo attack further up. Okay, so let's do that. In our Q notify crit strike, rather than 50, let's try 75. Let's bring this above the character's head a little bit. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. I think it's gonna work. Okay, so now let's have some fun. All right, so what I want to do, we gotta work on those guys, the way those characters turn around too. What I want to do is, in addition to the visual cue, I want there to be an audio cue as well. So what I'm thinking is, I want it so that when you hear the audio cue, if you click it right away, it'll work. And so let's see, we got a little bit of time, let's have some fun. All right, let's save all. I'm going to show you all. I actually recently just changed the sound tools I'm using. Reason being, I discovered that the Artlist business license was just this whole rigmarole, and so I've been trying to discover new things. So I'm trying this new app called Soundly. You know, so far it's pretty slick, but let's do in here, let's do a search. Let's do glass clink, maybe. Let's try clink. Let's just try clink instead rather than glass clink, because those all sounds like glass. Nope, none of these. Nope. Maybe reload. Reload. Oh. I think any of these would work for the purpose. So let's just pick one and give it a shot. We'll just use this, okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to, inside of our folder, we're going to try to bring this sound in and get it to play, because that's part of this. So if we go into our art folder, we go to audio, we're keeping stuff separate now for licensing reasons. Let's go new folder, we're going to go sci-fi, and we'll go weapon, and for the purposes of this demo, this is not going to be the final, but this is how cool this is. I can just drag and drop this here. Boom. It creates a snippet that is just the piece that I highlighted. It's pretty cool actually. Okay, so now if we come down here and we go to our audio sounds, let's do new folder, weapon, and we'll import into here. Import. I'm going to import this one. Okay, so let's save this. Okay, that is very loud. So if we take this and we knock it down, let's go to 0.5. Is there a way for me to play it here? Not that I see. Okay, a little bit too cartoony, but that's fine. It'll totally work for the purposes of the demo. So what we want to do is let's put that in the crit strike window. Game queue tag. Oh, interesting. Hold on. Crit window setup. Apply additional effects. I don't think there's a sound in here, but we can add sound to burst. Hold on. This component, grant tags, apply additional effects. If I add one here, what can I do here? Nope, that's not what we want. Modifiers? These are all ability set stuff, so we don't need modifiers. Executions. What do we have for our executions? Nope, that's not what we want either. Gameplay cues. We don't need any of that. All right, so we're gonna make a new gameplay cue notify. So let's do this. What we'll do is let's duplicate our melee attack. This is going to be crit what? Crit notify. Yeah, we'll go with that. Crit notify. Inside our crit notify, there shouldn't be anything in here. Ooh, there is some. We don't need any of this. Okay, and in our class defaults, we should be able to add a burst sound. And our burst sound, we can set to the sound that we just imported, which is this one. Okay, compile and save that. And then we need to give this thing a name. This thing, or a tag. So our tag is crit gameplay cue. Let's add a subtag here. I know you can't see this, it's off, but it's going to be crit strike notify. Okay. So that's what our gameplay cue notify uses for the tag. If we go back to our crit window setup, in here we can do crit strike notify. And then theoretically, what should happen is we should be able to hear that sound if this works. We did not hear anything. Why not? Oh, this has duration. Oh, okay. So this has duration. Okay, so that's not going to work. So what we need to do, this is a little different. These are not, it's not a burst effect. This isn't a burst thing. So we actually need to play the sound in that case. If that's the case, I don't know that we even need to do this, but because this is going to be on active. Play sound at location, and the sound that we're going to play, we kind of don't need. Yeah, we kind of don't need this. If this is the case, we might as well just play the sound in the melee attack, maybe. Okay, we're going to finish this because, reason being, I'll explain here in a second. It's possible that the timing of when we play that sound, we need to move it around so that the sound plays and then we have time to press the button again. So we may have to shift this around. So, and then the location is, I wonder what this is. Let's put a breakpoint here. I want to know what that target is real quick. What? So you're telling me it's on execute? So either it's not playing or no breakpoint. Hold on. Okay, so it's either it's not playing or it's getting killed. Game queue, gameplay queue notify, game queue. Oh, well this is messed up. This is not our crit strike notify. This is on active. There it is. Okay, the timing, so the timing's not right, I don't think. Also, I want to go back and retest if those bursts work real quick. Class defaults, burst sounds, sci-fi weapon. Let's just skip this for right now. Do we hear the sound? No, because it's not a burst. So it's inactive. Okay, cool. We answered that question. Okay, cool. So let's see here. We don't need this anymore because burst sounds are not there. So compile and save. Now we have to play with the timing. So this is where this gets fun. So this is tricky because when I hear the sound, I'm going to try to hit the button right away. Hold on. No, something's not right. So we hit it. So the sound's definitely playing. I'm trying to figure out if the sound is playing at the same time as the visual or not. That's the trick. So let's take the crit window setup and let's make this bigger. Let's go 0.1 seconds. No, let's go 0.2 seconds with this. Okay, so the sound plays right away. It is separated from the visual. Because there's I hear the sound, then I see the visual. Okay, I don't think that's working. Okay. This is going to be hard to tune, I think. If we go down to 0.01 on this. 0.01. Okay, so then we have our crit strike window, which applies the active crit window setup. And let's try changing this to 0.25 seconds. Okay, that's definitely easier. I think that just might be because the window's longer. Not because necessarily the visuals are in tune. Let's go 0.15 on that. Okay, I'm hitting that pretty consistently. Let's take out the visual. Can we hit it with just the sound? So to do that, where are we playing that? That's gonna be crit strike. Check out that. Gameplay Q. Crit strike. Q notify. Crit notify. Crit strike. That's where it spawns the system. So we're just going to skip it. So we should no longer see that. We don't. Okay, I don't think the sound's cool. We'll keep the sound. It's another form of reinforcement for people who might miss the effects. But I think ultimately what ends up happening is you just have to learn the timing. I wonder if it would be better if the sound was confirmation that you hit the window instead of actually signifying it's time to hit the window. There's so many good sound designers that I know who would be able to help me with this. And they're all so good. They have amazing jobs. And they're, you know, I'm not going to be able to hire them, but that's okay. So we'll figure it out. Okay, y'all. We actually, I would say this is a pretty fun stream from the standpoint of it's always great when we don't crash and we actually accomplish things, which is cool. So let's wrap this up. Currently, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be just kind of continuing this work. I'm going to do a little bit of work down in the code inside of our damage execution stuff, figuring out a couple of things about the magnitude of that, so we can get that daisy chain set up with our. They're not crit strikes, okay? I'm very aware that crit is different. I just don't know power boosts and energy boosts, whatever it's going to be called. But overall, the point is going to be that we're able to do that. So I'm going to dig into that code, and then we have some more devlogs coming up, all kinds of stuff to keep this train rolling. As always, thank you to all of our Patreon members who are helping make this possible. They're helping out with conversations, super active in the playtesting. Everybody who has been playtesting, thank you for that. Hoping to get some kind of combat stuff going, but as you can see, we have a long ways to go. We haven't even brought back projectiles yet, so we're going to be doing that. As always, I hope everybody has, if you're watching this after the fact, I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, weekend, week, etc. My name's Kevin. We will catch you on the next stream. Take it easy.